Palworld just came out of early access, and after a week and a half of a fresh save, level 1 to endgame, no shortcuts, this is the best version of the game by a mile. And if you bounced off of it 2 years ago, I think it just fixed the reason why. What it plays like right now, what is actually good about the game, and what still is a problem, whether it's worth your 30 bucks. Let's start with what matters most. What happens the second that you press start? The early game used to be the worst part of the game. You punched trees for what felt like an hour before anything opened up. Not anymore. On my fresh save, I had a working base, 3 power workers, and my first tower boss down in about 90 minutes. There's an actual mission structure now, main and side objectives that points you to the systems instead of assuming that you'll stumble into them. The foundation of the game got fixed, and that's the biggest single change in this entire update, and that's one jump that matters most if you're deciding whether to jump back in. 1.1 update is actually an undersell by a lot, and the full compiled changelog cleared 10,000 words. The headlines the World Tree teased since the early access, and now a real climbable story critical destination, a floating region called the Sunreach reshaping the entire back half of the map. 72 new pals, pushing the roster past 280, level cap jumped from 60 to 80, wildlife sanctuaries went from slightly more dangerous zone to a more patrol areas with drones and boss tier pals guarding the loot. And there's a system called the Awakening. You gather gems from inside the World Tree and use them to keep your favorite early game pal viable all the way through the finish line instead of getting it outcasted by whatever you catch next. And raising pals got noticeably less grindy too. The capture needed for a capture rate bonus dropped from 12 to 5, and maxing a pal's rank now takes 48 instead of 160. If you got hundreds of hours in this game already, yes, I would still say start over. The tech tree has been reshuffled, pals spawn in different spots than before, and a lot of in-tier crafting requirements change under the hood. Your old save isn't deleted, it still works, but loading back up means skipping past basically everything that makes the update worth talking about. I did a full fresh start specifically to answer this honestly, and it was the right call. Combat is the other clear win, and it surprised me how much I ended up caring about it. The old dodge got replaced with the actual dash that you can change into attacks, reload, and makes moving your character feel good for basically the first time. Boss fights that used to be the awkward circle strafe fest are generally fun now. Raids got reworked too. An actual person shows up at your gate instead of a random notification. You can pay them off or fight waves of attackers, and fighting has become one of my favorite loops in the whole game. Here's the thing that Palworld does better than the franchise that is obviously riffing off of. When you get a generally strong pal, it feels strong. You can hop on one and wreck a camp at a solo level where you'd expect it to still be struggling. And that's not by accident, it's the whole appeal. And 1.1 leads into that harder with reworked skills that hit way more dramatically. And if I'm nitpicking, some of the new active skills are clearly more powerful than the others right now, so don't be shocked if a couple get toned down in the balance patch. Nearly every active skill in the game got rebalanced for this update, plus a batch of new ones got added on top, so even pals you already know well are going to feel different in your hands. Base building got the most quietly excellent upgrades in the entire update. Pathfinding actually is fixed, your pals stop getting stuck on their own furniture. There's a real work priority system deciding what your pals do and when they do them, which sounds boring until you realize there's a difference between a base that runs itself and one that half of your workforce just stands around confused. Shelf filtering, quick stack, and bulk deposit, small stuff that you'll notice the second you don't have it. You can build away from research nodes now, and offshore building finally opens up all that dead coastline. The one handicap that still remains is that there's no move command for a place object, so relocating items anything means breaking it down and rebuilding from scratch. For a system that is refined to everything else, that's a surprisingly annoying miss. One more thing worth flagging, there's a global pal box now that lets you move pals between different save files, which is really convenient, but it also means you can technically import a maxed out in-game pal straight into a fresh save. That can be a little bit of a cheat code if you want it to be, and just as easy to ignore if you don't. This works equally well solo or with friends, and 1.1 didn't miss anything with flexibility. If you're going multiplayer, you and your group form a guild with a shared chest so everyone can pull from the same material pool across different bases, plus role permissions so you're not just trusting randoms with your whole stockpile. Crossplay generally works too. Steam, Xbox, PlayStation players can all drop into the same world. If you're playing solo like I did for most of this, the game doesn't punish you for it at all. Some of my favorite hours were just wandering around alone with the podcast on. Here's a 10-second version for the breeders out there. Mutation eggs aren't just pure luck anymore. There are cakes that push the odds towards better stats and inherited passives, and the old stat charts everyone used now are wrong. So expect the community to rebuild those over the next few weeks. The open world is where the update throws its full weight around. The old map had a lot of dead space, especially toward the edges. That's mostly fixed now. Watchtowers double as a fast travel points with the real advantage to plan out your next route. Ancient ruins hands out schematics if you explore them. New settlements have actual NPCs and side content. The influence is a lot less Pokemon and a lot more Elden Ring and Breath of the Wild at this point. And it's not subtle about it, but it works because the ideal actually gets stitched together instead of just sitting next to each other. The dungeons deserve a specific mention because the old ones were generally bad. Same rooms recycled over and over again. The new ones actually vary, and clearing one now feeds a real exploration XP track instead of just being a pure loot detour. Expedition rewards got a serious buff too. Sending pals out used to be a slow trickle, and now a short run hands you a real haul, including the ancient materials that used to bottleneck the whole back half of the game. And the wildlife sanctuaries I mentioned earlier are generally worth detouring for now. I lost a solid 90 minutes to one just because it kept escalating. More patrols, tougher pals, better loot, and I never felt like I hit a point where it stopped being worth pushing further in. My honest take on the game is that it's a lot better, but it's still not great. There's an actual thought line connecting the towers, the world tree, and why this all matters, and the rival characters are actual characters now instead of just silent obstacles. Big story beats look generally nice, but the dialogue in between is still flat and mechanical. The presentation is there, but the writing underneath it isn't yet. If you're here hoping for the story got dramatically better, it honestly didn't, and it honestly never was really promised. It's fine, but it's not the reason to play this. Here's a few things that's actually really wrong with the game. First is the performance. Even after a dedicated optimization pass, I hit real stutter, specifically with new effects triggered, a new POW rendered for the first time, or I crossed into a new zone. That shader compilation, not a raw horsepower, and it's all over the Steam discussions right now, reportedly worse on AMD cards than Nvidia. Turning down settings barely helped. The second problem is the mid-game has an actual wall. Once you're melting ingots and chasing the ancient tech material chain, the pace that felt great in the opening hours slams into a wait on production queue stretch. It eases up again once you're deep into the endgame, and expedition reward starts overflowing faster, but that middle chunk is still the least polished part of the whole experience. Community-wise, those are the two complaints you'll see repeated the most, alongside a small, more vocal group saying that the UI and the character customization barely got changed. I don't think that complaint is totally fair given everything else that they did change, but it's out there, so I'll still mention it. For context on the scale, Steam reviews are still sitting at an overly positive north of 90% despite all of this, which tells you that these are real annoyances, but not a deal breaker for most people. This isn't a different game. If survival crafting generally isn't your genre, nothing here flips that switch. It's still fundamentally about gathering, building, and grinding towards bigger numbers. But if you're even a little bit into that loop, this is close to a best case version of it. Faster early game, meaningful better combat, smarter bases, a world that finally rewards wandering off. The price didn't change. It's still $30 for more content than most $60 or $70 releases manage. It's on Steam, Xbox, and PlayStation, and Game Pass, and cross-play across all of them. No Nintendo platforms, and given the history there, don't hold your breath waiting for that change. So that's the full breakdown, what the game plays like, what's good about it, what's still broken, and whether if it's worth your time. Drop your first base disaster in the comments. I want to see them. If this helped you decide, drop a like. It actually helps the channel a lot. I love when YouTube pays me for just yapping about video games. And follow me on Twitch if you want to see live playthrough. I stream every Monday, Wednesday, Fridays, and Sundays on 9:30 Eastern time over on Twitch at AndreTheAlpha. Link is in the description. But until next time, stay safe, stay smart. Please don't overwork your pals. They're not slaves. And stay alpha. We'll catch you in the next one.